the days of not talking about Captain Ibrahim Traore, or just, making these things as a taboo, it has gone, meaning amongst government officials in Africa, as we are seeing more and more government officials have started to praise Captain Ibrahim Traore's leadership in various sectors. In fact, they are talking in their own parliament, trying to convince their government, saying that there is a thing or a two that we can take a lesson from his leadership. Amongst these are, as an example, there is a Kenyan senator, and also recently a senator or a member of parliament from Namibia have talked about Captain Ibrahim Traore. Not only that, we have seen also elite research institutes like the security, the ISS, the Institute for Security Studies, also have started to publish research articles regarding Captain Ibrahim Traore. Now, I'm going to bring you one by one what are those things that have been said. But here is the thing. First of all, you see that this government or this leader, Captain Ibrahim Traore, he has done tremendous change in his country. Whether it's be it in development, be it in security, the changes that are happening in Burkina Faso can no more be ignored. But guess what? What made really for this part, it all happened very recently in April, around end of April, and now beginning of May. All these things, what I'm saying, meaning whether it's the parliaments or the senators or member of parliaments talking about him, or the research article that was published, that we cannot ignore his legacy. Now, the Kenyan parliament talked, it was a senator from Kenya and then a member of parliament from Namibia, a research institute. These are the things I'm going to bring to you. I will try to answer this question. First of all, what did these senators in Africa have said about Captain Ibrahim Traore? Secondly, why are the rest of the African leaders are silent about him? So I will look at this question, okay? Now, first of all, Captain Ibrahim, Ibrahim Traore, to remind you or to give you a background, he has raised for, there's such a thing called Burkina Faso right now. Much of the percentage of their spending, the country spending, goes on defense equipments for defense, because there's a lot of threat against Burkina Faso and against its leaders. So to cover that, what they did is that they set up this Patriots Fund, where citizens contribute money to, then that will go to buying equipment, defense equipments, and anything that is needed for security. And secondly, another highlight is that France, the French government, used to buy its uranium per year, just $1 billion, throwing to Burkina Faso, and then taking all this mineral from Burkina Faso. But that has been now changed from 1 billion to 85 billion. So that is per year. This is something, a big change that the country has made. And also their voluntarism, meaning, in the areas of security, in the areas of, military, there is a voluntary recruitment from the youth as well, and others. Now, moving on, here is what the Kenyan senator said, and let's watch it together.
Mr. Speaker, it is important to, when I look at the recommendation, The second recommendation says renew their commitment to the African initiative to solve security challenges in the Great Lake region and support efforts aimed at promoting peace and stability in member states beset with conflict and instability. We have to demystify conflict and instability. What brings or what brews conflict and instabilities in our countries? It is very simple. It is the interest of the West. It is the interest of the East. Should we start looking within ourselves to realign our own existing resources to be able to better, our lives for the future generation? Mr. Speaker, every so often, I am reminded of the new ruler now or the new leader of Burkina Faso. And today I came across a clip where he has made education free from primary all the way to university. I reminisce in the time when the former president, Kibaki, introduced pre-primary education. A lot of critics are like, no, how are you going to be able to fund it? How are you going to be able to afford it? It comes back to the issues discussed in this report. Issues to do with our natural resources. Issues to do with the gold that we have in this country, which is traded, and then some guys who are unscrupulous businessmen take all the credit. And even the community not end up getting the royalties. We talk about the resources that we have. One of the most controversial natural resources that we have Murima Hills in Kwale. It is something that people don't talk about because the West have a big interest in it. To do what? To better the life of their people. Suppose we now look back and say, it is about time that we stand on our own 2 feet so that we can take care of our security. All these instabilities in the Congo region, why? There's a lot of resources, a lot of natural resources. So you'll see the West, the East, everyone is going there. Recently, Mr. Speaker, I read that the new president of Namibia has decided to hit back at Donald Trump sanctions and say that she actually gave all those investors, all those who are mining in that country, 48 hours to leave the country. And when you go back to Namibia and see the amount of resources which are coming from that country, you'll be shocked. So now, if all of us can start learning from other leaders from other regions, Burkina Faso, let's go to Namibia, and then we bring it back home here, we will be able to ensure that there's security in the Great Lake regions. We'll be able to ensure that our water bodies are fully protected. We'll be able to ensure that even the laws that we develop in this house are climate adaptable to. They are supposed to, you cannot have seeds that you're planting. And this gives me an opportunity now to introduce that I will be introducing an amendment to CAP 326, which has to do with seeds and crops, so that we can.
Sorry, I was muted. So this senator in Kenya's parliament was talking about Captain Ibrahim Traore, saying that how he made education free and how he come across of that viral video, and also in terms of security, what great things he has achieved. And he, being from Kenya and from the eastern part of the continent, there's this the Great Lake security problem that also includes, DRC in it. He is suggesting that, there's something definitely we can learn from Burkina Faso. That's what he's saying. Well, do not think that, all members of parliaments are supporting here Captain Ibrahim Traore. Perhaps it's like a handful or less than a handful of MPs or senators, because the others are mostly they're not really getting your vote to go and, represent you. They are paid to keep quiet so that the government can do whatever he or she wants. But here and there, you can see some courageous people talking about, the reality. But right after him, there was another senator that came and completely trash Captain Ibrahim Traore. So I just wanted to show you, because my argument here is that there are some African senators who started to talk about or to praise Captain Ibrahim Traore because the changes that he's making is tremendous and it cannot be ignored anymore. And guess what? You know what the cause of this? You know, the real cause of all this is because recently, thank you, really, we have to say thank you. It's a blessing in disguise what General Michelangelo of the AFRICOM has done, because it has mobilized the whole continent and Africans globally. Right after that, his speech or his comment on April 3, Africans have mobilized and they have called for a rally at the end of the month. And guess what? From Burkina Faso to Ghana to South Africa to, you know, to London, to Caribbean, in Jamaica, people at Toronto, people have been showing their voice, have been showing their support to Captain Ibrahim Traore. And this is not something they want to see, but they have seen that people, you know, the great power, the greatest of all is the power within the people. But people, you know, most of the time we tend to forget, or we don't even know. It's not even the government. The power is within the people. So they have seen that if something happened, how something people will react, and that's something, the repercussions that they don't want to go into. So again, I would say that thank you to General Michelangelo. It's all because of that, because this speech here by this senator happened recently. Now, I'm going to invite you to listen another senator in Namibia in their parliament talking about Captain Ibrahim Traore. Just wait.
But he's doing two good things. That he becomes an international icon, a young guy, younger than many of us. Traore has changed the price of uranium. France was buying uranium from Burkina Faso for $1 billion every year. He stopped the French to buy his uranium. Today, Burkina Faso is making 85 billion from the same resource. We are selling uranium here. We have no nuclear power. We are just talking, everything is nuclear. We are just selling. Whether the Chinese are paying us the best price or not, we don't know. We are also afraid. What if they walk out of this deal? But Traore, a young man, a soldier, has changed his country. That's why Traore is now building up factories, processing plants of agro-processing, because he has resources. We have these resources. When we say some of these things must not be said in the open, but let's drink coffee and talk about the future of our country, we don't listen to one another. So, Foreign Minister, may your door be open for further engagement, deeper engagement in the national interest of our country, so that we start running, because we are crawling. We must start running. And this country has an opportunity to penetrate Africa, to penetrate the world, but we must run in, and we must talk to one another so that we get the country going. Thank you.
Thank you.
So that was really powerful, short and precise, but he hit the nail, you know. Guess what? He showed them, he brought some figures to show. I don't know if that 85 billion was in dollars or in French, the CFA, the currency that Burkina Faso is using currently, or 14 of those Western African countries who used to be a colony of France. So I don't know in what currency, but that's a fact number, that figure that he's mentioning there. So he said, he sent a message to the foreign minister that's listening, open your door and let's discuss. Because some of you would say that, oh, some of these things, you know, what your government officials tell you, that these things are not to be discussed or to be talked over the phone. My phone will be tapped. I cannot say this. I cannot support like people like Ibrahim Traore openly. So let's have a coffee. We talk about it over the drink, over dinner. This is the things that they tell you. No, I mean, the African youth is really, this is what they want. So you better open the door and listen and say it publicly. That's where the power lies. That's where you get the support. Otherwise, sooner or later, the people who voted for you will take you out from the office. Okay, so now these are the senators, one from Kenya, from Namibia, that I showed you, who are, praising Captain Ibrahim Traore. And I have seen one, I have come across one in Nigeria as well. But I've also, on the other hand, in Nigeria, really for government officials to be engaged with Burkina Faso or Captain Ibrahim Traore's administration is also a crime. I have come across a video like that, but I did not read it, so I cannot back up that, but I did listen to a video like that. So this is really, really interesting. You cannot ignore people's power. You cannot ignore the change that he has made, because it speaks for itself. The things that he has made, the factories that he's setting up. Let me just mention this, just, in terms of like areas of sectors, like, for example, resource sovereignty, like taking the gold, the natural resource of Burkina Faso. Now it is the fourth largest gold producer, and it's claiming also, it's reclaiming the mining sector, demanding fair contracts. They are amending the share and the tone, the code of these miners, the mining code it's called, and the local value addition also. Now billions once expatriated may now drive national infrastructure and job creation. The number of the roads that he has built, in terms of, there are figures what has been the length of those roads, the infrastructure, and what it is now since he came to power. Also in the sector of agriculture, there are over 400 tractors, not only weapons and tanks he's buying, he's also buying tractors that will be used for the agriculture sector. Modern seeds, farming inputs also have been distributed to local farmers. He goes, guess what? He encourages students to study farm, to study agriculture, and go not to sit comfortably in the capital city, to go to the village, and he gives them land. The administration gives them land for them to set up. He so much talk about being food self-sufficiency, just like Thomas Sankara, because he said, if we cannot feed ourselves, we cannot say never that we are free, because those who feed you will control you. That's the thing. So he really so much believes that to be self-sufficient, both in food and also in security. Now he has also, as you have seen, he's setting up processing factories like tomato, because there were billions of dollars that not only Burkina Faso, many of Western African countries spend that to buy tomato paste, but they grow the tomatoes there. In fact, they sell it raw, they imported the paste. So now he has set up not one, not two, three, in 6 months, 3 tomato processing factories he has inaugurated. Also, in terms of security, there are 90,000 plus civilian volunteers have been mobilized to defend the nation. A people-powered approach that is reclaiming territory and reinforcing national resilience. Also, in terms of health equity, he has made childbirth free. Also, solar powered mobile clinics have been set up and distributed to improve also vaccine storage. Also, in the sector of cultural decolonization, he has ordered for the schools to adopt to have a uniform that's made from their own cultural traditional fabric. Also, the language to enforce, to learn into their own language, their own native language. There are many things that, we are not even calculating, we are not even adding for you. Oh, this is the factories, this is the airport that he's re-innovating. but in terms of sectors that we have, all these cannot be ignored. It will speak, not because their propaganda did it, even if it does, because the mainstream media, which most of us are following, will not tell us. But now the change has been, it's something tangible you can't ignore, because now people are also echoing, not the mainstream media. People like this on YouTube, Pan-African media platforms are talking about it. So even now, not only African YouTubers, but if I have to speak in black and white, even white people who have YouTube and who are not from the mainstream media are talking about him. And Burkina Faso, go on Google, he's the most searched person in the world right now as I speak to you now. So if these people are talking about like senators like us, then why are our leaders are afraid of talking about Captain Ibrahim Traore? That needs a bit of an elaborated explanation. For that, I will bring you, this man is really a very, very good Pan-Africanist, and he knows what he's talking about. He has done a lot of research. He has platforms across social media, and I'm going to share with you his interview with Lynn Ngugi, YouTube. She's Kenyan, so recently she interviewed him, and here is what he has to say about our leaders.
Below, but you said something very important. Traore has the people's support, yes. But why are African presidents quiet on this matter? Why is Ruto quiet? Museveni is quiet. South Africa is quiet. Why is none of African presidents saying hands off Traore?
Yeah. Very good question. So this is following the campaign after General Michael Langley's thing. Yeah, let's hear now.
Great question. Here's the thing with African presidents. Back during the...
His name is DJ Kwabali, actually. Okay, I have to say for the courtesy purpose.
Colonial days, the British had what was called indirect rule. Yes. This is where they used the local traditional chiefs, local leaders, to actually rule. So it appeared to the people as if our leader is still the one leading us. Yeah. But in reality, this leader was now subservient, was now answerable to the British government itself. So they're still doing that. They're still doing that. That is why they ensured that even when Africa gained independence, if you look at all those presidents, and one day we will go through them one by one, starting with Kenya's own Jomo Kenyatta, many of these presidents remain subservient, remain answerable to Britain or to France or to Portugal or to Spain, in the case of the only country that was colonized by Spain. In the sense that when you look at Kenya, for instance, Jomo Kenyatta, instead of rewarding the Mau Mau freedom fighters that inspired even the civil rights movement in the US, he ostracized them. He shunned them. Instead, he embraced the white settlers. He himself became a form of a white settler in terms of the land that he then acquired. Yes. So the British knew that the only thing that has changed is that it is a black man who is now ruling Kenya, but in reality, they retained control.
This is the reason why I...
Oh my God, I'm sorry about that. This ads.
I've always said that what of the only country that was colonized by Spain, in the sense that when you look at Kenya, for instance, Jomo Kenyatta, instead of rewarding the Mau Mau freedom fighters that inspired even the civil rights movement in the US, he ostracized them. He shunned them. Instead, he embraced the white settlers. He himself became a form of a white settler in terms of the land that he then acquired. Yes. So the British knew that the only thing that has changed is that it is a black man who is now ruling Kenya, but in reality, they retained control. And I have always said that what they gave us is just the check, but the main signatory to date remains the imperialists. It was the same story in most of those Francophone countries. And those who opposed, like Sylvanus Olympio, first president of Togo, were then assassinated or taken out. Nkrumah himself, much as he had his weaknesses, but as the father of the original Pan-Africanism, you know, he was only president for a few years, and then they took him out, coup d'etat, before Guinea had to take him in as an adopted citizen. So the reason that is a very critical thing to understand is because it's the direct answer to your question. Even today's presidents here in Africa, 95% of them have continued in that tradition of not really serving their people, but serving their foreign masters to protect their own interests and protect the interests of these foreign masters. So because Traoré represents a scenario where he's saying that now we need transformative servant leaders who are serving the African people. And to explain what he means by that, there are times when people have said, okay, if you're that popular in Burkina Faso, why don't you have elections and now become an elected president? And his answer is always, because he's serving the Burkinabe people, he always says, if half of the country is still under jihadists, and it means that the people who live in this half cannot be able to vote, are you telling me that they're not worthy of voting? How can we have elections when half of our people cannot even cast ballots? According to you, what is more important is an appearance of democracy, and you do not care at all for the half of our country that can't even vote. Because you're saying, and he keeps saying, people need to understand many of the words he says, because sometimes the danger of a revolutionary leader like Traoré is that he becomes a myth and people forget the substance. Yet it is the substance that really drives him. So in this scenario, the substance is, he usually says that when we will finally have elections, we are changing our electoral code so that it will be criminal to ever dish out money to the, to the electorate, as is the norm here in Africa. The only thing that people will sell is their ideas. And they have to go to every community in Burkina Faso and sell their ideas and let people vote for them. And that cannot happen in the current climate. So Africans also, we need to understand that so that we realize it's not just about a blind embrace of the Western style democracy. Look at all these other African countries that have done that.
Democracy.
Yeah. Where has it led us? And this is a good juncture to also tell you about an Afrobarometer survey that came out, I think, just yesterday or the day before yesterday. They did a survey in 30 African countries. And what they discovered, 30 African countries, there are 54 African countries. If you add Western Sahara, there are 55. What they discovered is that Africans have zero trust in the national institutions of governance. The leading entity in which Africans have trust in are religious leaders. That was 66%. The second one is the army. And then, it is those two. And then traditional leaders. 50-something% is traditional leaders. It's just the army and the traditional leaders and the church, religious leaders. But the executive, presidency, the legislature, and the police, all of them, they polled below 50%. Below 50%. So clearly, Africans do not have faith. They do not trust these leaders that keep emerging through the Western-style democracy. Africans are saying that we need to Africanize our own forms of governance. We need African-style democracy. Why is it that countries like Switzerland have rotational presidencies? You're president for 1 year, somebody else is president, and they're doing extremely well. Why is it that Africa was forced to believe as if the ballot box in the Western style of democracy is the only way to get a good leader? Africans, we have to do a massive interrogation of the Western style democracy. We must relook at it and ask ourselves, how can we Africanize this?
Yes.
So that the leaders who emerge through this process are true servant leaders. If they were true servant leaders, they would all be standing with Traore at the moment. But what gives me hope is this, Lynn. I saw a few weeks ago the former president of Tanzania, Jakaya Kikwete. He was in Burkina Faso, sent by Mama Samia Suluhu Hassan,
Yes.
the president of Tanzania. And it is the first time I have seen a major official delegation from Eastern and Southern Africa actually go to Burkina Faso, because they have been trying to ostracize him all along, that, he took over in a coup d'etat. So Mama Suluhu, that was good. I still have beef with you on many other issues. Yeah. But
we can give her points
exactly.
for that.
On that particular one,
Yes.
that was very, very good. And I challenge other leaders, whether they're in government or not in government, to begin going to Burkina Faso, not as some sort of pilgrimage, but to just show the solidarity.
Good.
And to begin learning from the ground, so that Africa can start being better in terms of proper governance.
Yes.
So until the day that we have true servant leaders who are serving the people, you won't hear much from the presidents. But the good news also, Lynn, is that since the African people are fed up,
yes,
since the African people are saying that enough is enough, they are the ones who are going to elect their own Traore'S in their own countries. So Tanzania, I expect that Mama Suluhu will win, because Chama cha Mapinduzi remains a very strong party in Tanzania.
good.
Sadly, the main opposition leader has been charged with treason. So we may end up with a very weak candidate. But even before that happened, Tanzania's opposition, unfortunately, remains more or less like Kenya's mainstream opposition, where these are people who usually want power so that it can be their turn to eat, not because they want to serve the people. So I challenge the people of Tanzania themselves to believe that if the constitution says that so-and-so can run for president, the people of Tanzania should not just count on the mainstream opposition leaders. They also need to come out so that they can grant the Tanzanian electorate a chance to elect a Traore. Or Mama Suluhu, if she also sees the light and decides to do a U-turn, to become a Traore herself, I urge Mama Suluhu to continue on that trajectory. Whatever Jakaya Kikwete told her from Burkina Faso, let her listen to that. Let her actually metamorphose, if possible. She can be one of the few leaders who turns from a caterpillar to a butterfly.
Beautiful.
Because nature has that allowance. Yeah, but time is running out for her. The same thing to Kenya, 2027. If Kenyans must be very serious and realize they cannot elect the same old. It is not fair for Traore. Everybody who loves Traore and everybody who sings his praises, if you still go ahead and elect the same old, funny, weird leaders. Yeah,
I agree.
Exactly.
Yes, that you're betraying what Traore
you're
stands
betraying
for.
the cause completely.
Yes.
So Kenyans should ask themselves a simple question. Of all these people who are running for president, who at least either represents a bit of Traore in his own way or in her own way, or has those revolutionary ideals? But Kenyans must then look at track record.
Good.
Because anybody can stand up and say, I'm working for you, I'm serving you.
Yeah.
But they should look at the track record. Number one, any politician who is a billionaire, they should knock them out.
Get out.
Yeah, they should just knock them out.
Even a hustler, get out.
Exactly. They should do that. And that is what true honoring Traore entails. The same thing to Uganda. A lot of times when I speak a bit positively of Bobi Wine, People like saying that he is a puppet of the West, that Museveni is a true Pan-Africanist. So without getting into Tanzanian politics, I mean Ugandan politics, they have to realize that the proof is in the pudding.
Heeft u al gehoord?
Yeah, so I think for the question that why African leaders are silent is answered. So he brought his elaborating it, bringing example of Tanzania, example of Kenya, and also now Uganda. Here is the thing. I mean, the most precise thing that he said is because these leaders are subservient. They are simply servants of the West. So if they praise, if they start to do, like if they adopt his mechanism of leadership, then they will be removed. And when they are removed, there are things that they are going to lose because it's for their own, believe it or not, as much as it sounds a cliche, but it's only to keep their personal interests. It was really very funny when General Michelangelo in the US Congress last time when he said that Ibrahim Traore is taking the gold to keep his personal or to protect his for his personal security. Well, those who are working for their personal interest and personal security are those who are serving you, those who are hosting the US Army, those who are serving the French military, so that if there is any opposition and trying, to knock them down and take them from that palace, then that French military or US military can come and protect them. Or not even people who are white, but the military that is trained by those US Army and French military can protect them, and then they can stay in power for 3 term, 4th term, amending and doing a coup d'etat against their own governmental constitution. And at that time, nobody's saying anything. There are a number of coups that has been done in the, committed in the continent. Why only against Captain Ibrahim Traore you are making such a noise? Why only on Niger? Why only on Mali? What about the Guinean coup d'etat? What about the others? Didn't they come to power because they did a coup against their own constitution that was saying 1 term by putting it 2 terms, 3 term, amending the term of their presidency? You don't say nothing on those because they are your subservient. So when DJ Kwabali talking about, explaining why our African leaders are silent on Ibrahim Traore, why they are not saying that hands of Traore, why they are not joining the youth, joining all these Africans globally, because they are serving somebody else. They are not serving the nation. They're not serving the people that gave their vote. Perhaps that also died because of, their sweet talk, thinking that they will come to power to make change, to give them jobs. Some of them have even died to bring those people in power. But guess what? When they are in the office only to serve, who brought them really to power? The West. That is the issue. That's why they are not saying hands of Traore. That's why they are not protecting him. They have done it to Gaddafi, their friend, who have been funding them. They didn't say anything. I mean, there are things that has been tried, but the West was big enough or whatever, bully enough to make them keep quiet and, drag that man, kill that man just like that in front of our eyes. I will read you one comment. This is because it struck me again. It has to do with the question of why our leaders are keeping quiet. Here's this. I really don't want this. Has been really longer than what I thought. Listen to this. The problem with Africa is that those with the ideas and courage to change this unfortunate narrative have no power, while those with the power to make bold decisions have no ideas and courage because they fear what they will lose personally. But as for Ibrahim Traore, can do what he is doing not only because he has the ideas, knowledge, and courage, but because he has nothing to lose personally to the neo-colonialists, he don't care if he died tomorrow. And as a matter of fact, I'm telling you, he knows something will happen, and he's racing against time because he knows what happened to his former revolutionary president, Thomas Sankara. He has seen what, not seen, but he has, we have read what happened to Kwame Nkrumah, what happened to Olympio of Togo. We have all those history, and he knows exactly he's not different. So that's something so he's racing against time and trying to lay the foundation. So with that, I leave you. Thank you very much for tuning in. Please let us know in the comment section your view, why the African leaders are not saying anything, and how we as ordinary citizens, or those who have this kind of small media platform, can magnify the voice, how we can impact, and support from wherever we are what is happening in Burkina Faso, and this kind of thing. Share your view. If you want to support us, please share the video. That really means a lot, because let the voice be heard. And also you can support us through our PayPal account. I put it in the chat section. You can also support us through our Buy Me a Coffee link. It's also in the chat section, but also you can find it in the description section. Shout out a quick one to Michael Royal, Honey. I have seen some here. Anomalous, Reds. Yeah, thank you for all your comments and suggestions. All right then. Bye-bye.